Okay, this is the Photoshop tweening tutorial. Now before we start, I must remind everybody that when you are tweening in Photoshop, all images and video should be converted to smart objects. So I've already done that in this file. So let's open up this file. And here it's in the Essentials workspace. So I want to save it with my name. I'm going to save as, and I'm going to find my folder. And I'm going to save this as my last name. My first initial, underscore tweening. And I already worked on it before, so it's still already there, but I'll just replace it and do it all over again. I don't care. And say OK. So here we got it. And we're going to want to work in the motion workspace. So we're going to come up to the workspace and we're going to choose motion. And here it is. And let's reset motion. Okay, we want to get more room. So I'm going to close some of the windows. I'm going to close the histogram because we're not using that right now. And I'm going to close the libraries. These are useful to have open in some instances, but right now we don't need them. We just need the space. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a smart object because I'm going to move it. And then the text can move without being made into a smart object, but it must be text. You can't change it into something else. So any text layer should still be text. And if you're going to move anything independently of something else, it can't be on the same layer because the motion applies to the layer and not to the object. So you could have a select object, but if you put motion on it, it's going to move the entire layer. Now I don't want a frame animation, so I come down here and I choose Video Timeline. Now I'm going to create Video Timeline, and let's get this so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to drag this up so you can see the layers. If you press Command 0, it'll make the stage fit into the window up here so you can see the whole stage. I've got a 5-second timeline because automatically it gives you a 5-second timeline for anything that doesn't already have a length of time if it's a still image. If you had a video, it would be the size or the length of the video, but since we don't, it's just going to give you 5 seconds. You can change the scale of the timeline display by dragging in the slider bar between the mountains, so you can zoom in and see close up, and you can zoom out. And what you're doing is you're looking at time span. So at this point, we just want to be able to see 5 seconds here. So this is good. And now, if you look at each of these as a track, so time goes horizontally from left to right. And then spatially, the stacking order goes from the bottom is underneath to the top is on top, obviously. And then you have an audio track at the bottom, but we don't have any audio yet, so it's empty, but that's where you would put your audio tracks. Over on this side, you've got carrots that allow you to fly down to see the different types of keyframing. So for text, you can keyframe the transforms. So let me show you that. So we can do scale, rotate, skew. So there's opacity, and that would be this opacity up here in the layers. And style, down here, the FX at the bottom, these are layer styles. And then text warp. And text warp, when you have text selected with your text tool, this is the text warp button. Down here, I've got my smart object. The smart objects allow you to keyframe transforms, opacity, and layer styles. So if you fly these all down, you can see that the keyframing is allowed. When you click on this, it puts in the first keyframe, but it's a toggle for keyframing enabled. So if you click it again, it erases all of your keyframes. So you click it the first time and never after that. Okay, so each of the tracks, if you drag the playhead up to 3 seconds, each of the tracks, if you put in a keyframe, will keyframe at 3 seconds. So I'm going to enable keyframing for transform for the text. And then I'm going to keyframe style for the text. And now I'm going to go down and do each of the text layers. Transform and style. Transform and style. Now I'm going to come down to the tomato. So the smart object tomato, we want to turn on transform. Okay? And that's all at 3 seconds. Now Command S to save that. Now we're going to drag the playhead back to 0, which is the first frame. And at this point, we are going to start doing things with the actual positions of the different text and the objects. So let's select the word watch and drag it so it just disappears off to the left. Okay, now select the word me and drag it so it just disappears at the top. Now select the word move and move the word move so it just disappears off to the right. Now Command S. Now make sure that you have turn on transform controls at the top. So this is the application bar, and it tells you what's available for each of the different tools you might be using. Now I want to get the tomato, and I want to make sure I can see what I'm doing here. I've got transform keyframed. I've got my move tool. I'm going to select the tomato smart object, and I'm going to make it as big as I can, stretching it all out so it's not proportional. So there's not much of anything left showing of the sky. We can even make the stem disappear a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to accept that change, and I'm going to pull the playhead up to 1 second. Now at this point, I want to change the proportions to make it stretch or squash. I'm going to make it get smaller and skinnier, and now I'm going to rotate it. And I'll rotate it just short of a half turn to the right, because if I do a whole half turn, it won't go back and forth, and that's what I did in class, so it did an entire turn. But I just want it to do a part of a turn, so I'm going to go to the next here. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to go to 2, and at this point I'm going to rotate it just short of halfway the other direction, and I'm going to make it get fat and squash down. And I'm going to accept that. Okay. Now I'm going to pull my playhead up to 4. And I'm going to select the word move in the layers panel. And I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down to the effects, which is add a layer style. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to add bevel and emboss. So for the bevel, I'm going to reset to default. Okay, now I'm also, while I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and add a color overlay. And for this color overlay, I'm going to select this, and here's left over from when I did it before, but I will go ahead and reset to default. For this color overlay, I'm going to click on the box, and I'm going to get the color picker so I can select the color of the tomato. Okay, and now I'm going to come down and I'm going to select the outer glow, and here I want to reset that to default, and now I'm going to make sure that the opacity is 35, noise is 0, the spread is 30, and the size is 25 pixels. Now I'm going to say OK. Now I'm going to say I want to select this effect and right click on it, and I'm going to come down and copy layer style. You can also come under layer style, and there you will be able to copy the layer style also. Now I'm going to come to the next text layer. I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste layer style. Okay, it's going to be faster to do it that way maybe. Now I'm going to select watch, right click, and it's way down at the bottom, and I'm going to paste layer style there too. I'm going to Command S. I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to use this little playhead here and click on it to play. And that is how you make things tween. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go to File, Export, Render Video. I'm going to make sure it's going into my correct folder, and it is. I want to make sure I'm using the Adobe Media Encoder. I'm getting the format of H264, the right size, and that looks good. And now I'm going to render that. So that is how you use Photoshop and tweening.